This presentation is going to cover Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst Carl Gustav Jung. Carl Jung is considered a very important figure in the history of psychology. He founded analytical psychology, which is an approach that focuses on the connection between the mind, body, and soul. These ideas incorporate the conscious and unconscious parts of the human psyche, and are often compared to Buddhism and Taoism because of their very similar concepts on synchronicity. Jung believed that everyone's collective unconscious stems from one's ancestors, and it is manifested as archetypal personality characteristics. His theories on personality have been the foundation for introversion versus extroversion, the Myers-Briggs type indicator, and word association test, which Sigmund Freud actually used for his research on neurosis. Jung wrote extensively on these topics and had many popular publications that are still referenced in psychology today. Jung's personal life appeared to be very influential in his development of analytical psychology. As a child, Jung grew up in an unhappy and unstable household with parents who were often angry and erratic. It is clear that Jung witnessed some traumatizing things during his childhood, which not only caused him to have his own emotional problems later on in life, but also ruined his ability to fully trust people, including Freud. Jung was an antisocial child who preferred solitude over interpersonal relationships and is highly reflected in his theories about inner growth. He was married to Emma Jung for over 50 years and they had 5 children together. Although Jung was adamant that his troubled childhood experiences did not define him, they seemed to strongly influence his ideas about inner growth and individuation. One of Carl Jung's major contributions to psychology includes his expansion of Sigmund Freud's ideas on the personal unconscious. Although they ended their relationship after a disagreement, Jung was originally a follower and very close friend of Freud. They were said to have had a father-son type relationship and spent long periods of time discussing and sharing ideas. Since Jung did not have a good relationship with his own parents, he seemed to latch on to Freud, before eventually exhibiting signs of the Oedipus complex, which is the desire of the son to destroy the father, according to Freud. Although it is not entirely clear why their friendship ended, it happened shortly after Jung was appointed as the first president of the International Psychoanalytic Association, where he was accused of holding anti-Semitic views. While Jung agreed with Freud that the unconscious played a role in personality and behavior, he had some deeper ideas about what the unconscious actually consisted of. Jung believed that the human psyche was composed of the ego, the personal unconscious, and the collective unconscious. The ego is representative of the conscious mind. These are thoughts and actions that we are fully aware of when they're happening. The personal unconscious contains memories, even those that are suppressed, impulses and wishes that we are not always aware of. The collective unconscious is another major contribution from Jung's theories on analytical psychology. The collective unconscious is the collection of accumulated experiences of our ancestors and all of mankind, really. Jung states that we are not mentally aware of these experiences, but they are ingrained at the deepest level of our psyche. The collective unconscious is also responsible for formulating various archetypes, which are inherited tendencies that are universal and unlearned. Archetypes are based on the experiences and emotions of previous generations and influence people to behave similar to ancestors who were put in identical situations. This phenomenon is referred to as synchronicity, which is when 2 unrelated events occur simultaneously and are perceived as meaningful coincidences to the people experiencing these events. Jung used synchronicity to explain how our psyche unites the conscious and unconscious world. Although Jung only identified 4 major archetypes resulting from synchronicity, he believed that there are limitless archetypes that could exist. The persona archetype is how we present ourselves to the world. It's a defense mechanism that allows individuals to adapt and fit in with their society as we grow and develop. The shadow archetype is part of our unconscious mind and contains the things that are considered unacceptable to society, such as repressed desires, ideas, or weaknesses we have about ourselves. Jung described the shadow as the darker side of the psyche because of the influence it can unconsciously have on people's behaviors. It can often come out in the forms of jealousy, greed, or aggression. The anima and animus archetypes refer to the idea that individuals exhibit some characteristics of the opposite sex. Anima relates to the feminine side, while animus relates to the masculine side. The animus archetype is seen as the true self and is the primary source of communication with the collective unconscious. The self archetype is described by Jung as the most fundamental archetype and represents unity and individual wholeness between a person's unconscious and consciousness. Jung emphasized that disharmony between the two could lead to psychological problems, and it was important to bring these conflicts into awareness. He believed that this could be solved through individuation, which balances the dual aspects of personality. Although Jung wanted to incorporate some scientific understanding behind his theories, he argued that empirical evidence was not the only way to develop psychological or scientific truth. In fact, spirituality was a huge influence in Jung's work. He believed that feeling a sense of connectedness of life would benefit emotional well-being. Jungian spirituality has also been used when discussing human development. Jung disagreed with Freud's idea that childhood was the most important stage in personality development. He argued that it was actually middle age. This is because generally around this time there is a shift in psychospiritual energy that can lead to disillusionment or self-doubt. Jung advises that this is essentially the best time to work on spiritual growth towards wholeness. He specifically mentions being aware of the shadow archetype because it can be a source of spontaneity, insight, and deep emotion during the transition in the middle age. Carl Jung was the first to identify the personality traits extroversion and introversion, which continues to be used in personality theories and testing today. Extroverts rely on external stimulation for life energy. They are largely influenced by their environment and social interactions. Introverts, on the other hand, are resistant to external influences and are generally less confident in social settings. Introverts are also typically very contemplative and introspective. Additionally, Jung established 4 functions that affect personality differences: thinking, feeling, sensing, and intuiting. He stated that thinking and feeling were rational responses because they use cognitive processes such as reasoning. Sensing and intuition, however, do not. Jung believed that only one of these functions is dominant at any given time, and that particular function, combined with either an extroverted or introverted attitude, produces 8 personality types altogether. Some examples would be extroverted thinking or introverted sensation. Another major contribution Jung made to psychology deals with the interpretation and analyzation of dreams. Jung viewed dreams as the full picture of a current situation, including unconscious aspects of the psyche that come in the form of symbols in dreams. He also believed that parts of the personality that have not manifested yet can appear in dreams, and discussed how this can compensate the attitude of the ego consciousness. This concept was referred to as the subjective level of dreams, and often revealed conflict and complexes. The objective level of dreams refers to people or things that actually exist in reality. The Red Book, which was published about 50 years after his death, is a personal record of Jung's dreams that reflect his intense emotional breakdown that he was going through at the age of 38. His dreams contain visions of a bloody apocalypse and widespread desolation. Although he was severely troubled at the time, he was able to systematically analyze and follow the unconscious impulses that kept appearing in his dreams and fantasies. This allowed him to formulate his personality theory. In conclusion, Carl Jung was extremely accomplished in developing analytical psychology practices that are still widely used today. His ideas on the collective unconscious, spirituality, personality, and dream interpretations all stem from the soul's role in the human psyche. While this is not typically accepted from a scientific perspective, many of Jung's patients are proof that this technique can improve emotional and mental health. Jung emphasized the importance of being aware of what the collective unconscious is trying to tell you and how it is affecting your behaviors. His work is highly relevant to psychology today and has also been an inspiration to religion, history, art, and literature. Thanks.